All right, so let's move to this next section, which is something that a lot of people want to know about, obviously, which is just about the possibility to expand on Zack Snyder's Justice League in some form, whether that be, you know, something like a season 2 or another movie or whatever. So the main question that I'm kind of picking out from everybody's tweets is just that given that Warner Media has invested so much money, we think 70 million, but that's not confirmed, right? That's just speculation.
That's the number going around.
Do you think that that's a good sign that they could be looking to the future and possibly be interested in pursuing more of Zack Snyder's Justice League in a capacity that would allow him to complete his 5-part saga?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like as I said earlier, that number, if it's accurate, leads me to believe that they are investing heavily in this property and this universe so they can expand on it. And there's a lot of places that they can go beyond just the Justice League Part 2. There are characters and actors that I think would feel more comfortable continuing their storylines on HBO Max and not having to be part of the rigors of a theatrical sequel, Henry being one of them. If Henry has a plan in place with Zack to continue a Superman say miniseries, you know, that gets teased out in Justice League and the two of them get together to continue their story. Zack made it very clear when he had Henry join him for the May 20th announcement that he started this journey with Henry and it was really appropriate to have Henry be part of that announcement. So I could see the two of them moving forward. I also see that Ray is very loyal so far still to Warner Media, and he's made a very distinct line in the sand between, hey, Warner Media is not the problem, it's been Warner Brothers Pictures in the way that they treated us. So I could see Cyborg, who was supposed to get a solo movie, continuing his journey through a series that Zack puts together, you know, whether it be like a 3-part arc or something like that. Also because of the fact that Ray was recruited by Zack, and Zack and Ray work really, really well together and have this deep respect for each other, that if the two of them wanted to continue to collaborate, I could see that happening.
Let's do it.
Ezra, it feels like, is moving over to the theatrical side. It's not that he can't cross back over and do some stuff on HBO Max.
I might be able to do it.
And I'm sorry, the third one would be Ben.
Hi.
While I could see Ben Affleck participating in the Flash movie and lending his Batman to that story, if he were to continue the story that he wanted to do and have the creative freedom to really write and direct the script that he had, and by all accounts, he has a script that is phenomenal, I could see him doing it on HBO Max. And it's just, we're just in a spot where the line between what used to be theatrical entertainment and what now comes to streaming services is completely blurred and gone.
Yeah, and it's not like a competition.
Like, Lovecraft Country seems to me like something you would have seen on a screen somewhere. Watchmen seems like something that you would have seen on a screen. Single episodes of Game of Thrones, Hannah doesn't want to hear this, but they were things that you saw like in a theater. They were massive spectacle. And so the streaming services have the money to invest in production, and I would not be surprised at all if Zack is able to continue, and if he's going to continue, that it continues on HBO Max, where he doesn't have to fight for things like how many theaters is he going to get, and competing with all these other big IPs that are trying to get places, spots in multiplexes. Zack would have the freedom to just create his stuff for HBO Max and have it go to the streaming service.
Do you think any of that is actually already planned? Like, do you think Zack has had meetings with HBO Max to discuss some of these things? Do you think anything's in development?
I think 100% it's been discussed. And I think just like when he finally announced that the Snyder Cut was coming, he'd been having these negotiations with them for months to button it all up. I think he's having conversations with them on a regular basis. Yes. And
do you think they're just waiting to see how the Snyder Cut actually, like, how reception is for that before they actually announce anything?
It's less about that because we never really hear those numbers anyway. Like,
Sure.
They could just turn around and tell us, like, it dominated, and we'd have to believe them. So maybe they want to hear reviews and reaction. And if people come out and say, like, oh, that wasn't what we wanted, you know.
Why did you say that?
It's possible. It's wholly possible. You know, I think Zack's fans are absolutely going to embrace it. But if the larger pop culture landscape sort of says, like, oh, that was a mistake, HBO Max would not want to invest in continuing the story.
Why did you say that?
But if the storyline that plays out hooks a ton of people, and if people are like, God damn, that's the best Superman that we've ever seen, give me more Henry Cavill, then you're going to see that play out. You know, all these companies react to the market, and if the market says they want more of it, then you'll get more of it.
Run for more.
So which of these rumored spinoffs do you think is actually most likely to happen? And that's a question from @MaddieJarrett.
I think Ben's spinoff is the most likely to happen because
Just a feeling.
he had a script in one place that he loved, and those scripts don't just go away, and if anything, he could just be tinkering on it, making it better. I think Ben legitimately loves the character, and if you look at him now. He's in tremendous shape. He looks like he's getting himself back into Batman shape.
Breathe it in.
He has said recently in interviews also that the way that the studio system is playing itself out, you can't get the types of movies that he used to be able to make, The Town and Gone Baby Gone and even Argo, which won Oscars. He said you can't get them into theaters anymore. Like, the theaters are pretty much reserved for big ticket franchises. So I could see him making a mid-budget Batman movie that follows his vision. It doesn't have to be all the bells and whistles. It could truly just be he and Jeremy Irons and the Deathstroke, storyline that he wanted to play out. I could see HBO Max backing up a truck to Ben Affleck with a ton of money in it and saying, bring your Batman to us, because the fan base is super vocal in support of Batfleck.
It's my legacy.
I think that that'd be one of the easiest ones for them to move forward to. The second one would be Henry Cavill.
Yes, Superman.
The fans really want to see more of Henry in the Superman suit. Henry really wants to play Superman. He enjoyed the privilege and the pleasure of getting to play that character. And if he and Zack have mapped out a direction where that character should go to, then I can see that coming together.
There wouldn't be a damn thing we could do to stop it.
Someone like Cyborg's a little bit harder because you haven't had time yet to invest in that character. You only met him ever so briefly at the end of BVS. You saw his creation through a video cameo. And the version that you saw in theatrical cut's not a fair interpretation of what Ray Fisher is going to do. So if he ends up being the standout of Justice League, the Snyder Cut, when it comes to HBO Max, and people really want to see more of that character continue, then I could see it happening. But I think if fans were given a chance to vote for one of those three, they would much rather see where Ben Affleck's Batman or Henry Cavill's Superman goes, with all due respect to Ray, because Cyborg's still a new character that we're getting familiar with, and we got to see how he plays out when the Snyder Cut rolls out.
Ride ain't over yet.
We also had another question about the Ray Fisher situation, which again, you guys, we made a video about that I will link in the description if you want to go check that out. But he says, why do you think the entertainment media is not doing much regarding the Ray Fisher situation? It's almost like they don't want to get to the bottom of the thing. I feel like if the RTSE movement hadn't been there, his story would have been buried. I see a lot of people even put him down instead of questioning Johns and Whedon. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that it's a difficult story to report on, and you don't want to sort of report on every step of the way until you know anything concrete. A lot of times when fans on social media are saying that something's not being discussed or that it's being ignored, that's not the case. You're just waiting for the story to sort of develop to a point where you're ready to talk about it. And if you comment on it before you know all the facts, it leaves you in a vulnerable position where then you have to sort of backpedal and change what you just said.
Hey, blame the lady.
I'm not a lady, I'm a journalist.
So I don't think it's time to get upset over the fact that the entertainment media isn't treating the story properly. They're just waiting really for the next steps to come. And you don't want to say anything careless or thoughtless or dangerous while you're waiting for those sides to come, because then you're just jumping to conclusions that you, again, probably sort of might have to backpedal because what you thought is true is not true.
Here's the truth. A reporter got greedy for a scoop and went where she shouldn't have.
In this case, and Ray has been very vocal on social media, but even talks about the different things that he can't get into just yet because of the way the investigation is still playing out. You're going to hear a lot more about this story. There's going to be plenty of time for people to get into this story. Justice is not going to be served on either side of this story immediately. It's not an overnight solution. If something really bad went down, then there's going to have to be practices put into place to prevent this from happening again.
I agree.
There are going to have to be questions asked and answered about why all of this went down. So it's just not something that you can rush to and breathlessly comment on a video or worse, social media on a step-by-step basis. I think it's time to just sort of relax, take a breath, let the story play itself out, and we'll have plenty of time to comment on it as everything sort of hits the table.
Do you think that part of the reason people are maybe being a little bit more quiet right now is just that they're kind of afraid in this period of uncertainty as to what actually happened, of like pissing off Warner Brothers Pictures, for example, and they don't want to completely like trash their relationships?
That's part of the reason why I think the other cast members haven't necessarily come to Ray's defense. And that's why I also think that Jason Momoa coming to his defense spoke volumes, because he is still directly tied to Warner Brothers Pictures, due to have an Aquaman sequel coming, but is also part of Dune. So he works with these people on a daily basis. And for him to come on social media and say, hey, let's stop, pussyfooting around this and address the issue, that was significant. I don't know 100% why Ben and Gal have not come out to say anything. I don't know why Ezra hasn't come out to say anything. I'm sure there's a reason. I wonder if we'll ever actually know the reason. Sometimes these things get swept under the rug and we don't know the reasons of them. They're questions that remain unanswered. But Yeah, I'm sure there's a certain amount of job security protection that's going on with people choosing to talk or not talk. And there are executives who are in charge, who are not at Warner Brothers anymore, who have the ability to come out and talk and are still choosing to be diplomatic and wait to let all the facts come out before anybody takes a side or jumps on a bandwagon because they want to see what the facts are.
It's going to come out eventually.
Maddie Jarrett has another question,
Ooh.
and he said, could any of the rumored Justice League spin-offs become entwined with J.J. Abrams' announced Justice League Dark series on HBO Max? If so, which shared stories and characters would you like to see?
I'm going to say no, that they won't. I think moving forward, DC is going to work pretty hard to make sure that their stuff doesn't intertwine. You might see a character move over for a brief moment, or one character drift from one universe to the next, but I think they're going to go out of their way to make sure that these stories do not connect, so that JJ can just come to them with an idea for a Justice League Dark, tell that story, and have it be its own thing, self-contained. Similar to how Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix came to the studio and said, hey, we have an idea for a Joker movie. They got to tell their Joker movie. It was wildly successful, over $1 billion in ticket sales and Oscars underneath its belt. So the need to connect these things isn't there anymore.
Isn't it beautiful?
This kind of connects to @BatKilmer's question. He said, how do you think they'll address the setups for future movies going forward that are not happening?
It'd be strange for Zack to just pull them entirely. It's weird because that movie from 2016, 2017 had to have those scenes because they were teasing out movies that theoretically were on Warner Brothers release day calendar. But the fact that they're not there anymore means that those scenes could become superfluous or just irrelevant. We see Iris is in the footage, so she's still going to be part of it. But we don't have confirmation that Iris West is going to show up in the Flash movie and that Kiersey Clemons is even going to get a chance to play her again. There are people who are lobbying Andy Muschietti to say, hey, please keep Kiersey Clemons as your Iris West, but we haven't heard whether that's going to play out. So yeah, I'm super curious about that, of how Zack is going to treat that material that was supposed to tease out future movies, that it doesn't have to do that anymore.
Well then.
So Maddie Jarrett, again, with all the questions, says, before his daughter's tragic death, there was some speculation that Zack Snyder would take on a Seven Samurai-inspired Star Wars standalone film. Any credence to that? Any chance he'll become involved in that far, far away galaxy anytime in the future?
Look, Zack loves Star Wars. Everyone associates him with the DC universe, but that dude is obsessed with Star Wars. If you follow him on Vero, you know that's one of his favorite universes. As sacrilegious as this seems, if he were given a chance to move forward and jump to the Star Wars universe, I think he would take it in a heartbeat, and nobody could fault him. You know, just get a chance to play in that sandbox. And yeah, him being able to take on a Seven Samurai type storyline with Jedi would be amazing. Very similar to the way that he tackled the zombie genre in Dawn of the Dead and the way that he's going to be doing it in Army of the Dead. I would love to see it. Is there any credence in that happening? Look, Star Wars has a lot of things they need to figure out on their theatrical side. They're doing okay with television, Mandalorian being what it is, and the rumors of the Obi-Wan show coming together, so we'll see. But they don't know what they're doing in terms of theatrical. Rian Johnson's supposed to be working on another Star Wars film. The Game of Thrones guys were, and now they're not. So,
Good.
maybe Zack is the answer to their prayers, but every time that we see a director get associated with Lucasfilm, it's temporary, and we never really see what comes to fruition. So let's keep Zack on the DC side, as much as I think that he would absolutely jump at the chance to work on a Star Wars film.
I'd like to see him direct an episode of The Mandalorian. That could be cool. Because that's what Taika did, and then he got his own film.
Taika's another one that has a Star Wars film, exactly. Yeah, because the element that I would love to see Zack approach, which we haven't necessarily seen him do 100% of, Sucker Punch to a certain extent, is science fiction. Like a true-blown spaceships, aliens, you know, that world. We saw it briefly when he dealt with those scenes on Krypton at the beginning of Man of Steel, but I want to see, that's kind of like, I think we said in this series that if Zack were ever to direct one of the DC characters moving forward, I would love to see him take on Green Lantern and the Green Lantern Corps, because that should be an intergalactic story, and I would love to see Zack doing that for a full 2 hours. So that'd be exciting to me.
I'm sorry, did I disappoint you?
At Lunchbox228 wants to know, what's personally your favorite moment in the DCEU as of yet? And also, what's your favorite piece of music from the DCEU?
My favorite moment from the DCEU has to be No Man's Land. I mean, that is one of the most significant scenes in any movie, in any superhero movie, for sure. To see Diana fully step into the role of Wonder Woman, and to be told for the bulk of that movie, like, hey, you can't be as heroic as possible. Like, it's not our time, it's not our place. And for her to finally shrug it off and just be like, get out of my way, was unbelievable. Patty and Gal nailed that element. Favorite piece of music? I love Zimmer's the 2 piano notes. So beautiful, super melancholic. You know, I love John Williams' Superman theme song. That's one of my favorite John Williams pieces of music. And so to see Hans Zimmer go completely in the opposite direction and do a very minuscule approach to Superman, and it's 2 piano notes played in a pattern, they bring chills, you know. And that's what Zack wanted for that Superman. He was confused about what his role was in our society. He was really trying to figure a lot of that out, and Zimmer's score in Man of Steel, I thought, brought the themes of that character together in a really, really beautiful way.
In so many ways.
All right, now let's talk about your book.
Yay! My favorite topic.
Darren Kirsch 16 wants to know, what was the most difficult part about writing your book?
Not having an ending. Legitimately not having an ending until the Snyder Cut finally got released on May 20th. For people who don't know, I started writing the book in August of 2019 because I was fascinated by the movement and their efforts to get the movie released. I wanted to find out why they did what they did, and I wanted to document, just to have it on record, all of the crazy things that they were responsible for. And I just thought it was a fascinating story. But as we got to the conclusion of the story, I'm so used to it, just as I discussed, like, you don't know where the story is going to go. So we write stories on CinemaBlend on a daily basis, tracking the progress of a big time story like this. But a book is a different beast that needs an ending. And it wasn't until I got pretty deep into the process that I was like, geez, I don't know what the ending of this is even going to be, because we might not see the Snyder Cut for a long time. So I had an open-ended way to conclude the story, which would have been turning it back onto the fans and giving them the final word. Then I was blessed with an ending. I was blessed with Zack finally revealing his plan to release the Snyder Cut that meant for a scramble at the very end of it to put the button on the end of that story. That was the perfect ending. But the scariest part over the course of the process was really being like, okay, how am I going to conclude this? Because it's still a story that's developing as we talk about things with Ray Fisher, as we talk about whether the Snyderverse can continue on HBO Max. There's plenty of other things to write about, but you have to get to a point where you just say, like, okay, enough is enough. This is the story I'm trying to tell, and that's what's going to be in this book in particular.
Are you planning on writing a follow-up book?
So I'm scratching out notes for a follow-up book, and I've been using a hashtag on social media called Restore the Snyderverse. That would be a title that I kind of like right now, and I think that there's different elements that can be included in that book that aren't just about where the Snyderverse goes on HBO Max, but there are other huge factors that went into everything that's coming in the wake of the Snyder Cut coming to HBO Max. And so, yeah, it's one of those stories, Hannah, where I just feel like I'm in it, I know it, and I have a weird obligation to stay with it and to keep telling that story. I almost feel like whether this is accurate or not, and you guys can tell me in the comments whether it's inaccurate, I feel like I've earned the trust of the movement, and I feel like it's kind of my responsibility to keep telling their story. And so, yeah, I hope to continue telling the story in a follow-up book, yes.
My R&D is up to all sorts of no good.
So final question, and this isn't something that anyone specifically asked, but I've seen it a lot in the comments and just on Twitter. I know you've addressed it somewhere, but can you please, once and for all, explain to people why you have 2 Avengers posters in your background instead of DC posters, because this seems to be the most pressing issue.
That is hilarious. Because I honestly consider Infinity War and Endgame to be the greatest movies that I've ever seen.
Hello, break the bad news.
Now, that's not to say that they are like the best masterpieces of all Hollywood kind, but I am a comic book movie fan. That is my favorite genre now. We are living in the golden age of comic book movies, and as blasphemous as this sounds, I believe that you can love both Marvel and DC. It's okay if you choose a side.
Too much to ask for both.
And in terms of the comics, fans have been choosing a side for generations. You're either Coke or Pepsi, you are NSYNC or Backstreet Boys, and you're either Marvel or DC. And so growing up, I read Marvel comics more than I read DC comics. So I love seeing the MCU and everything they put together, but I also love the DCEU and I love everything that they were trying to do, and I have super bought into Zack's version of his Snyderverse. But those two movies are impossible. They shouldn't exist. They should not be able to be films bringing all those characters together and work as well as they do. So they're on my wall for their amazing accomplishment. And should I change them out for DC stuff every time we do one of these videos? Yes, but that would be very complicated and take a lot of time.
Sean doesn't have time for that, you guys.
I'm lazy.
Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
It's also
So they're gonna
important
stay
to note,
where they
though,
are.
Sean, because in your living room, you
Yes.
have DC posters, right?
I
Like your
do,
literal
yes, I've
living room of your
convinced-
house, which arguably is more important than your office.
I have, in our family room, I have, yes, the living room of our house, I have the cover of the book designed by the great Nick Ingram. Give him a follow on Twitter. And then a Man of Steel poster right next to it. So those two are side by side. And my teenager's reaction when he saw both of them hanging, he came home from work one day and saw them, that I had mounted them, and he goes, "We're doing that now? We're doing superhero stuff in the family room?" And I said, "Yeah, Mom let me do that." So
You really are out of your mind.
yeah, so DC, I see it every single day. I have a fantastic Spider-Man Homecoming print that I'm staring at right now. I've got Marvel posters here. I love it all. I love it all. And it's okay for you guys to like it all as well, too. You don't have to choose a side. It's okay to like Marvel and support DC. We can all get along together.
You can embody the best of both worlds.
Thank you guys for participating in our mailbag. I think it's a fun way to sort of interact with you guys, figure out where we are in terms of the story, because there's things developing on this on a near weekly basis. We will continue to track all of that on our weekly Snyder Cut series. If you guys have other ideas for types of shows or topics that you want us to get into in terms of Snyder Cut, drop them in the comments section down below. Make sure that you hit subscribe and that you turn on your notifications so that you don't miss a single Snyder Cut video as we post them here on the YouTube channel.